When Project Moon draws up the stories for Canto's Olympus Company, sometimes they heavily or, to a small extent, reference their previous works of Library of Ruina, Lobotomy Corporation, or the two books which precede these games, called Leviathan and The Distortion Detective. The latter being released between each of these games, exploring the aftermath of the player's decisions during them, or serving as a prequel to set up their more ambitious titles. We see this no more clearly than in Canto 9, where loads of these references are included in the story, projecting it into a new light where players new to Project Moon's works, or veterans of it, can both equally enjoy these stories with these characters, and please experienced fans through subtle references. This is a clever tactic used by Project Moon, to not only tell players who just downloaded Limbus Company, hey, you should probably learn what happened in the city prior to Limbus Company indirectly, and, to a degree, market their older games to new target audiences and demographics. From Moses, Vespa, Urza, and new additions to the Limbus Company Distortion Department during Canto 9, or referencing events such as the Smoke War, a prominent force in the Lobotomy Corporation and Library of Ruina, it bridges Limbus to the stories of these games. As the city gets more and more complicated as new cantos and material from Project Moon releases, it's a testament and nudge on the shoulder to where Project Moon first came from, where the very core of the identity of Limbus Cantos are defined by Project Moon's collaboration with Millie, the main band behind Project Moon's most infamous moments in their games, only happened due to Kim Ji-hoon playing Citus, a Taiwanese rhythm game stated in a 2022 interview conducted by IGN at the Tokyo Game Show 5 months from Limbus Company's official release. But I'm getting sidetracked from the main star of the city, where in Canto 9 one of these references is so obvious if you can't see it you'd be delusional. An individual so parallel to the story of its original inspiration is the flawed mimic. This is a final warning before I just spoil everything in Canto 9 if you for some reason haven't played it a month later. His character is Rien. Rien is one of the most interesting Project Moon characters in Limbus Company hands down, not for his obvious imitation of Roland, one of the main protagonists from Library of Ruina, but for his unique take on life due to being controlled as a toy at large by one of the most powerful syndicates in the city. Rien is a member of the Index, one of the 5 Fingers, and his syndicate focused on willful devotion to carrying out the city's prescripts. The prescripts have been portrayed twice in Project Moon games, first in Library of Ruina and second in Limbus Company. In Library of Ruina, we learn about what prescripts are, messages written by the tremors of activities in the city which vibrate, causing a pendulum to swing, which write on a thread spun by 57 spinning wheels writing words in the language of the city. These threads are then spun by an index weaver in a loom, forming a cloth where the prescripts are laid forth. This is seen through the perspective of Yarn, a messenger of the Index delivering prescripts to city inhabitants. All the inhabitants have to do is carry out their prescripts, then subsequently get protection by the Index from other threats in the city. And this sees Yarn watching people's lives change in a whim as they have to perform ridiculous feats to stay alive. Yarn hands out other prescripts to high-ranking Index members called Index proxies, to eliminate the thumb in L-Corp, and to extract the spinal cord of 37-year-old people in L-Corp. The proxies question the prescript for its ambiguities, not defining if to do it across the whole city or just the L-Corp nest. Later, after the prescripts eliminate all the thumb members in L-Corp, they then receive a prescript to head to the library. We see that Yarn deliberately faked these prescripts, however he finds out that the prescripts guided him to do so in the first place. This shakes his opinion on the prescripts, questioning if anyone under them truly has free will as the prescripts know all. His philosophy is contested as in the final Index story, we see a weaver convince Yarn that the prescripts simply relay what was going to happen eventually, as the will of the people and its cruelty is the same as the city. Thus, this truth causes him to distort. Yarn's story highlights the prescripts as a byproduct of the actions of the inhabitants of the city, as the same vibrations caused by massive distortions killing hundreds of people, or the impaling of dozens of thumb members, tremor and recycle this cruelty into the prescripts. Thus, Library of Ruina, through Yarn's story, portrays the prescripts as an omniscient force which simply recycle the city's cruelty back in on itself in a never-ending cycle. Now, Ren's character is influenced from 2 main factors, the prescripts mainly, and the life of Roland. I'll briefly cover Roland's story as you most likely already know it. Roland has a wife called Angelica, who died after Angela released the light from Lobcorp. This caused the White Nights and Dark Days event to happen, where the pianist, the Distortion, appeared in District 9, which killed Angelica. After this, Roland, in sorrow, vowed to take revenge on anyone responsible for Angelica's death. Due to this, he caused a citywide massacre targeted at various people he thought was responsible. This led to him losing his title as a color fixer, being banned from most offices and associations, and was demoted to the status of a washed-up grade 9 fixer. On his final legs, Roland was approached by the Purple Tear, a color fixer known to be an in-dimensional traveler, who can kind of just appear anywhere and tear through space itself. Here, she does this and sends Roland to the library, to let him resolve his issue with Angelica. Here the events of Library of Verona commence normally. However, you get the option to continue Roland's cycle of sorrow and violence, kill Angela, the source of his sorrow, or move on and be friends. It's here Roland has a stark difference to Rien, where Roland was motivated by his grief/sorrow over Angelica. He still had free will and the choice to move on if he wanted to, whilst Rien didn't. Rien being a poor adaptation of Roland is evident, as Rien is guided by the prescripts doing what he has to do under the will of the city. Therefore, whilst Roland can choose between two options to continue the cycle or move on, he has free will, as Rien, confined by those prescripts, has no other choice, despite his reluctance to follow through sometimes. These two perspectives, one of the prescripts in Library of Verona, and two of Roland's story, serve as a sort of baseline for how Project Moon decided to write Rien. Beyond attempted to question his blind faith in the prescripts, Rien decided to completely ignore the prescripts, and sometimes it didn't do them at all. Additionally, the lack of choice Rien has, despite trying to copy Roland's free will, molds his life into something he doesn't want it to be, despite trying to fight back. With all of that out the way, I can now move on to Rien's actual story. Before I cover Rien and Canto 9, as much as I want to cover Hellscream and its content, I don't feel obligated to. I'm 100% aware Rien is inspired and written based on characters, themes, and elements of Hellscream. I don't want to copy the mistakes of some other unfortunate individual which may have accidentally made one of the worst analysis videos I've ever seen on a character in Limbus Company. As much as I like Cassetti's character, and as much as I want to give constructive criticism to new Limbus Company creators, I can only do so much other than say good luck and move on from your current predicament. However, I'm producing this at length within a 2-week time span, and my schedule is currently incredibly tight right now. So for your sake, if you want to learn more about it, or read Hellscream yourself. Before Limbus Company, Rien had an entourage of things which all culminated in his first present appearance in Limbus Company. At some point in the past, Rien followed the will of the city in the prescripts, joining the Index, becoming a proxy, and a star of the city, as mentioned by Jamila, the head of the LCA Ujdat Vanguard 1 team. Rien did all of this on his own. As this isn't a power scaling video, you can interpret this as you want, but this suggests Rien as an individual got shit done. From his initial rise in the Index, the prescripts at some point made him change his name and create a family. This is one of the first cases where his blind devotion to the prescripts costed him. The prescripts ordered him to watch his family die. Despite trying to delay this by taking trips away from his assigned tasks or ignoring the prescripts due to the love for his family, he would always end up fulfilling his tasks as highlighted in his Will of the Prescript passive, where an Index member presumably states, "Don't tell me, are you here to defy the prescript?" This resentment of the prescript sets up an interesting parallel in him splitting his personality in his life initially under the prescripts, being a cool-headed, caring and graceful individual, to now being an emotionless husk of what he once was. This was an attempt by the prescript to set him up into being Roland, as at an undisclosed point before or after this, the prescripts ordered him to model his appearance to a certain fixer in the library, being Roland. This is the essential setup to his emotional and mental state, with Project Moon treating the prescripts as a sort of narrative device to do so, where following the prescripts initially gave him opportunities, such as a new identity and family. These were stripped away from him, as a cost for his blind devotion to the prescripts, making him lose his family and breaking up his previous personality, as seen in his indulgence in the prescripts passive. Now an emotionless individual, this causes Ryushu to mention him as nothing. Looking from a narrative point of view, this sets up Rien as a character foil to Roland, a character who contrasts another character by definition, not even just their looks, but their actions in their lives. Roland's sorrow-driven actions from losing his family parallels Rien's family being killed off. Rien lost his family as a cost for following the prescripts, with their chaotically random nature also reflecting how in Library of Verona prescripts reflect the violence and cruelty in the city, kind of acting as a sort of karma to Rien's rise in the Index, killing many people and completing many tasks to reach that stage. Roland's loss was too from a random event, in this case a mass killing distortion, but this randomly happened. As Rien's loss was forced to happen, Roland didn't know, as Rien knew. Roland could have prevented it, That's why he experiences guilt and sorrow, as he was off doing fix work, whilst Ren knew and tried to prevent it, costing him everything. As in the city, everything has a cost. With Ren's new personality of being emotionless, he was now a victim to the prescripts. Compare this to Library of Ruina's depiction of the prescripts being an excuse for the continuous cruelty in the city, where its enactors question it but follow through, as they learn the prescripts are omniscient, knowing all the vibrations and events in the city. The prescripts and Limbus Company rather highlight how someone reaches their peak, then becomes broken as an individual and fractured due to the cost of their blind obsession to the prescripts, being as if the prescripts punished Ren for trying to bite the hand that fed him. This is seen in Ren's karmatic consequence Fortuna passive, stating, O Fortuna, Luna Stata Verabilis, which is from the O Fortuna, a medieval Latin poem in the 13th century, which translates to O Fortune, like the moon, you are unchangeable, basically meaning fortune is unpredictable and constantly shifts like the phases of the moon, relating to the chaotic rendition of the prescripts and Limbus Company and ensuing consequence of blindly following them. Despite this, Ren becomes the Index representative to train Ryoshi into the perfect blade by wielding different weapons such as the spiral. Ren is the most prominent in Ryoshi's upbringing due to him being in the role of her father. I'll restate this multiple times, but Ren is not biologically related to Ryoshi, rather their relationship acts as a father-to-daughter dynamic, as she grew up seen in his panic status called imitation of a father, meaning in essence father figure to Ryoshi, not her actual father. After stabbing a target through his arm 38 times, completing a prescript, he tells Ryoshi to never burn someone as a means of killing them. It's more severe in pain than just inflicting stab wounds. Ryoshi, after rebelling against the House of Spiders, leaves Ren with burn marks on his face, causing him to wear a white mask, simply just called Ren's mask as a status. Later on in his fight in Canto 9, his white mask falls off, revealing his burn wound from Ryoshi, from transitioning to a second phase named as Sizzling Wound as a status, which actively debuffs him, killing him as it burns and bleeds. After Ryoshi escaped the House of Spiders, he takes in another apprentice called Sora, who shares Ren's blind obsession to the prescripts despite his interest in Ryoshi. Past this, we reach the events which happened in Canto 9. Ren was a part of the assault on Limbus Company headquarters. Once the power went off, with the lights gone, he walked in a casual manner, uncommon to the usual LCE member, just before starting his massacre, showing the 9-1 and 9-2. This also shows off Ren's sadistic nature and deriving pleasure from playing with victims. The next appearance of Ren is in 9-17, called The Fingers, and respectively is our first introduction to many of the Nurse Fathers. This is where Ren continues his sadistic mannerisms, appearing in front of the newly arrived LCA Usta agents, and killing them all in front of Ryoshi. Another side note but Sora, Ren's apprentice's actions, in disguising as an LCE employee, then appearing as the Index apprentice in 930, named Will of the Prescript, after killing an innocent LCE employee called Ravi, did so due to the prescripts. Sora didn't want to actually hurt anyone, including Ravi, and simply wanted to escape with the Golden Bowels, giving us a sort of third perspective to the prescripts. This perspective shows another individual, this time with some humanity in them, not being emotionless, nor some distorted bum. Sora is pleased to save others, or live life in some childhood-like fantasy under the prescripts, a rule in vain, as they're just adding to no matter the individual, the prescripts would trample on their personal philosophy and mold them into something the city will intends to use. After a battle with the Pinky Nurse Father, she left, leaving the sinners to witness Ren entering. Sora goes to Ren to ask him to share what the code to the Index spirals were, which pierced most of the LCE members, slowly killing them, to be Ryoshi's birthday. Showing again Ren's fixation on Ryoshi over his current apprentice Sora. Now leaving the facility, he leaves Ryoshi a safe, which Araya was meant to be in, which she wasn't. Cutting to Limbus Company's Operation Spider Pry, Aldous, Massault, Ryoshi, and Dante appear in the corridor of the Index. Later, Jamila appears, with the rest of the LCA Udstat Vanguard team, the sinners then leaving the scene. They go to dispatch Ren, but their guns all malfunction, wiping them out and injuring Jamila. After Ryoshi severs her contract with Dante with a Raishiki, she starts cutting her memories in a frenzy, eventually erasing Sora and Ren from existence. Note Ren not being the Index nurse father, but the Pinky apprentice. Ren notes he is proud of her as this is her first stroke in the painting of the House of Spiders. Ren is proud of her growth from youth to now, being able to wield the relic of the House of Spiders, the thing she was trained to do. During the final battle of Canto 9, we get Ren facing off against the Sinners, where the climax sees Ryoshu cleave Ren with a sword. Ren then alludes to a memory, to lonely waves that once resurfaced before retreating. This metaphor kind of sums up Ren going wherever the tide's taken, with the push and pull factor emitted by the prescripts. After this, Ren is deemed too weak for Limbus Company to pursue him. We then cut to Ren being tracked and attacked by Index proxies somewhere in a city which awfully looks similar to the gutter Roland ends up dying in and Library of Ruin's bad ending. After killing the proxies, he receives a final prescript to recite the opening lines of Prayer for Loving Sorrow, the same poem Roland recites in Library of Ruin. He defines the prescripts, dying in an albeit grim ending, simply as using an Earth poon to end himself. With the end of Ren's story, a tragic tale of what happens when you let others such as the prescripts guide your life, and are incredibly indecisive against it, letting the tide of the ocean tug you where it takes you. Having your fate predetermined, with your life being 0.1% free will and 99.99% predetermined fate as seen throughout Ren's life. However, with Ren done, let's go back to his boss fight. Most of all the major fights in Canto 9 have dialogue slipped into their statuses and descriptions, with Ren being no different. Ren's boss fight plays Sakai, meaning reunion in Japanese, referencing Ryoshu and Raya's reunion. Ren is emphasized in some of these lyrics not being the primary target of them, but references his effect on Ryoshu and her opinion on his idiocracy of a life. The first verse directly addresses Araya and Ryoshu, whereas the second verse is important for Ren. In the second verse, the lines "pain cannot define the past, we are built to overcome endless mishaps." It directly highlights that Ren's pain for his previous family shouldn't define him. Instead, he should move on and let his past be defined by his ability to overcome his endless mishaps and build a more positive future for himself, where he has the free will to not be emotionless or a victim to the prescripts. Another line builds on this, but now I know that sacrifice is the easy path, addressing Ren's sacrifice of his free will, family, and so forth to have a vacant seat in the Index, and everything that comes with it. Another thing I would comment on is that these lyrics in Sakai kind of represent Roland's inherent free will, clashing with Ren's philosophy. From this, it's kind of Ryoshu's humanity of being a mother representing Roland's free will against Ren's flawed life. Thus, Ryoshu throughout Ren's life, inconsequentially, above the quality of Roland's to a degree, gradually over time culminating in an overpowering and defeating that of Ren's moral compass. It's kind of a crackpot theory which is low-key ass, but if I be for real, if Ryoshu didn't represent Roland during Library of Ruin's good ending, to a degree, and Ren being the bad ending version of Roland. Two sides of the same coin, both of them being sadistic, losing loved ones to the cruelty of the city, initially, but through differing philosophies, one overcomes this with free will and one doesn't, being controlled by the prescripts. Anyways, apart from my crackpot theory on that, Ren's boss fight has various interesting dialogues and descriptions, giving us further detail on his life. Ren accesses his weapons from something called Oracle Device Cassidius, Cassidius being the staff carried by Hermes in Greek mythology. Also, Ren's supposed goddess Hermes, as seen in his Procuration Hermes description. Ren's device to access his weapons is him basically gambling that Hermes gives him something useful. This one saw him kill someone with a literal fork. Apart from that, there's a bit more dialogue and description, but the stuff I've already mentioned or don't really add much onto the story, past off from what I've said. Apart from that, there you go. This is the first, as of recording and editing, major analysis of Ren's character, and basically in all of Canto 9 from what I know, and not a half-assed attempt at it. This is basically saw the life of a man who threw away his family and identity and life to gamble under a Greek god and die in a sewer. Truly inspiring. Apart from that, that was my first proper analysis of Limbus character. Let me know if you want to see more of them, because I could probably make these in 2.5 weeks, which is pretty good all things considered. University is starting soon, so I can't really do anything. I will make longer uploads like this, more detailed, more research done, obviously better. I'll do that maybe in 2 months from now I'll see if I have time. Apart from that, I do want to upload identity reviews and random content with just rants because I feel like it. The next video I'm making is I'm going to be addressing that one Rien video that someone made calling him a predator or something. it's like that makes no sense narratively. I guess you could think of it like that from Hellscreen, but we're speaking about Rien, not like people that were in Hellscreen. Anyways, if you have any feedback, tell me. No, that's really it.